Well, it's TMI Network, and you just had a great show there from Abuja Network Center as presented by Joseph Kadiri. Well, we always hear reports about one chance very, very dominant in the FCT, and the aspect of vandalism is a security check that needs to be tackled headlong. Well, here in Benin Network Center, we're going to be looking at the PEPT. By that I mean the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal verdict that came up a few days back. You can agree with me that it came and left, but it didn't just leave without leaving its trail, about intrigues and suspense on the electoral system, and how to close the gap on the electoral system becomes the crux of today's discussion. Basically, you look at the bill that became a law as passed by former President Muhammadu Buhari, and a lot was said in the direction of having INEC to transmit results electronically, and not manually. But again, the judgment delivered by the PEPT, goes a whole long way to really assess if we're going to be moving forward, or we're going to be on a standstill, or are we really retrogressing? A lot will be said by my panelists here with me in the studio, and from my extreme immediate left, rather, I have the convener of the Concerned Edo Citizens Forum. He is known as the voice of the commoners, Roy Oribapo. Thanks for joining me, Roy.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
And next to him is a social media influencer, a political economist, Ibrahim Momo. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me. Good morning, Nigerians.
Well, looking at the five-man justices led by Samani Haruna that delivered the ruling on the tribunal that was long awaited. Some were aggrieved, and so they are heading to the Supreme Court. But a whole lot has been said could bring some challenges to the electoral system going by the verdict. But first, how do you appreciate the verdict, Roy?
As I said before, I'll continue to build on it. Even I believed, and I'm convinced that what happened at the tribunal did not come as a surprise to me, personally. And those who also follow me over the years, you will agree with me that I have able to demonstrate a character that I can forecast Nigeria state.
Seriously?
And once I forecast it, it comes to pass. That was what I was expecting, and that was what therefore, yours sincerely was not disappointed. It's the society we have built for ourselves over the years. We are Nigerians. All of us contributed to the society we find ourselves as a Nigerian. Therefore, we'll take it. But notwithstanding, I still believe that they still need to also appeal this judgment, let it get to the Supreme Court, so that we also know the situation about our jurisprudence. We also know if our electoral process will develop, if we can consolidate on the gate so far. To me, the judgment was once a judge pronounced what they say is law, is law. Therefore, you can no longer question that. That is what happened at that level. But the takeaway thing about it is that, one, the issue of Abuja. That is in my own takeaway about this judgment.
Okay.
That, if they ask you how many states you have in Nigeria, if you say you have 37 states, you will not be wrong. You will not be wrong.
You will not be wrong at all.
You will not be wrong.
Going by the verdict.
Going by the verdict, you will not be wrong. And that's my takeaway, and I will continue to build on that.
Okay, but you see that as germane?
It's very,
FCT as a state? Or resembling a state?
With the ruling now, with the judgment by the tribunal, what can conveniently say is a state because he enjoyed the same status. The only thing now, maybe they will call for a review instead of a president nominating person to be a minister. Let there be an election, whether they have a governor or a mayor, as the case may be. We must, based on this judgment, we must continue. We are going to revisit many issues. Even, that's the reason why I'm also saying that I don't want to even be more forward about it. Let me just leave it as the level I am now and based on my position.
Okay.
Because if this judgment is a judgment that will continue, it's going to affect our electoral process. Considering the volume of money that we invested to secure and procure beavers.
Of course, yes.
While we were talking about transparency in our electoral process, our processing, That was the reason why they came with issue of beavers. You recall that we're talking about the card reader. And they don't believe that the card reader theory was formulated from one of the African countries. I remember they monitored in Kenya. And they said, no, this will be good for us. They brought it. After some said that, they said, no, we can build on it. They consulted and said, let's go with the beavers. And now, the volume of money we invested in beavers, there's something to show for us. It comes for a deep, sober reflection. That will be my position. And law is a law. Law is law. But there's something anybody can say, because once the judges pronounce, what they say is law. Therefore, me as a layman, I'm only just bothered about the money we invested. How do we develop our electoral system? How do we make it to work? Because in the next election, if this judgment is sustained, in the next election, people will not be interested in voting. People will be disorganized. People will not be willing and prepared to invest in our electoral process. Because at the end of the day, when you go out to go and cast your vote, and at the end of the day, the power lie with 5 men, 7 more, 3 men, as the case may be, to not decide the fate of millions of people, then one will be bothered. And this is the only election you see that this is the first time in the history of Nigeria, for a very long time, if not the first time, that a president will win an election with 37% votes. You know, these are the issues. Then you now know that those who wanted to be president, they are feared than those who say we don't need you. You understand? And these are the issues. These are the process that will continue to follow this the present administration. Legitimacy issue. And Nigerians are not happy with the way and manner the verdict was pronounced. And that's the reason why I'm still very hopeful and believing that let them appeal this judgment. Okay. Let's also see the position of the Supreme Court. From there, we now know where we are heading to.
Okay, but won't you be wrong to say that Nigerians were not happy? Or you meant some Nigerians weren't happy because...
No, when I say Nigeria, I just told you now, 37% is the total votes the present president was able to secure. It was 37%. Minus 37% away from the total votes. You know that when I say Nigerians are not happy, we're not happy, are those Nigerians who overwhelmingly said, we don't need you. Therefore, there is not two ways about it.
Well, we may not have the statistics.
The records are there. No, I'm telling you, the records are there.
But you can't speak to the records. You can't speak to it in absentia of the records categorically.
I'm telling you now, he secured 37% vote.
Okay.
Then minus 37 away from 100. Then you are getting about 63. What that shows to you? Yeah, you understand? When you do these are just elementary arithmetic.
The aggrieved presidential candidates are heading to the Supreme Court.
I want them to go to Supreme Court.
Let's just see how
I want them to go to
that will be tested.
Because whichever way we go at the Supreme Court, we will also have something to take home from it. That's the reason why I'm appealing to them.
Okay.
That they should go to Supreme Court.
Let's get your bite on the electoral process. Beyond the PEPT verdict. Do you see it as having a negative backlash?
Well, regarding the electoral process, I think Nigeria's electoral process is evolving and developing, is improving. Some of us who have been voting for a very long time will tell you that, in fact, in 1993, all these issues of accreditation, digital accreditation, whether it is with the beavers or with the predecessor, the card reader, was not in, just queue behind the photograph counting. Basically, and we got the kind of votes results we got, even though eventually it was truncated. Again, in 1999, in 2003, in 2007, in Benin here, every time I voted, the place I voted, there were cases of brigandage. People would come, shoot into the air, people would scamper for safety, ballot box would be stuffed, votes will be counted and announced. Those stuffed ballot paper boxes will be, the votes there will be counted and it will be announced. But today we have moved beyond that. So Nigeria's electoral process is evolving. Secondly, is that at the time, we now have this the concept of the permanent voters card, which means that there is a digital record of voters, not just the manual archaic system we're using. We tended to clean up our register, because cleaning up is actually a continuing process. And then we had the card reader such that before you to vote, you have to show that with your thumbprint and the card that you are the owner of that card. But again, then we had the concept of incident forms, because sometimes, it did happen to me, you vote in the presidential election, When you now come to the gubernatorial election or an House Assembly election, as the case may be, your fingerprint will not again be recognized. You now have to fill an incident form, and then you'll be allowed to, be ticked and you'll be allowed to vote. Now, INEC now improved on that to the, what we call the bimodal voter accreditation. So if your fingerprint does not show, at least your face can be captured. You know, so they uploaded the voter register of voters in each polling into the dedicated BVAS machine. And then people, so that this last election, one of the things you give to INEC was that the issue of incident forms was out of it. Everybody who voted was digitally accredited using the bimodal voter accreditation system. If your thumbprint was not showing, your face will show. And so that's how we have moved. No matter all the things people are saying, this has happened in the election. And then, you know, the plank of some of the criticism is that INEC did not upload the presidential election results
at real time
in real time to the IREV, the result viewing portal. But the reality is that how does that impact on the election? That's the question we have not answered. One is that the place of voting includes accreditation. That was done using the BVAS, not with the IREV. The voting proper was done by the manual, is done by the voter himself. That does not require the IREV. The counting of votes was done publicly at the polling units. The declaration of those results, entering, and then the agents of the registered political parties signing, all those took place at the polling unit.
So you mean to say that nothing would have gone wrong?
I'm saying that when it comes to the voting itself, INEC did well. Based on the fact that whether it's accreditation, voting, we didn't hear cases. People are not arguing that after accreditation they didn't give them ballot papers to vote. That's not the issue. The issue, the major plank of the argument is that the results of the presidential election was not uploaded in real time onto the IREV, the INEC result viewing portal. And that is the challenge. That is for me, I think, is that we are not if you want your child to do well, for example, if INEC can be called a child, what we do is that when he's doing well, you applaud them. But the whole issue is that the whole value is that results are not uploaded into real time. So because of that, the election should be annulled. That doesn't fly. Because whether it is accreditation, it is voting, counting of votes, recording of votes, and then declaration and posting of the results, first on the polling unit, and then to issue copies are issued to agents of political parties present. All this process went through. So for me, on the whole issue about, because even what you needed the IRF for, really, the basic thing I think we need the IRF for are two. One, those who are not there to know firsthand how the result occurred there. Secondly, for those who were there to compare with the result they have, the agents of the party, what they have with what INEC uploaded, to ensure that when you remove those two things, because the real result is already with the party agents, and it is posted at the polling unit. In fact, I can say that the major political parties, now we have about 4 of them, the APC, the PDP, the Labour Party, and then the NNPP. The major political parties, in virtually all the polling units, over 106,000 across the country, they have polling agents there. They have the copies of these results. If they do not have it, then the question, if you don't have a polling agent in a voting point, a polling unit, where the election is actually held, elections are not held in INEC. So we have to give INEC, applaud them.
You've made a beautiful conversation, but let's have a nexus, because I could see when Royal Rubber was expressing, your expression showed that you were amused by what he was saying. And Royal Rubber has said that there's going to be a very negative effect as a result of the verdict, of the PEPT, although we still have it, the aggrieved heading to the Supreme Court. But looking at it exactly just how you also expressed yourself just now, shows that you were amused. So looking at it exactly, you could see, like what Roy said, which is being embellished by thoughts of viewers also, the humongous amount being that was used in funding the whole technological enhancement of having BVAS, which seem like all is going down the drain. No. Looking at the discretion given to INEC to either use manual or electronic transmission.
Now the issue is, transmission of results. That is not part of the electoral process. The electoral process does not involve transmission, which is what the IREV is. The electoral process is about accreditation, voting, and collation, announcement and collation of announced results. That does not, those are done manually. The IREV was not meant to, that's not the process of voting. IREV is not the process of accreditation. IREV is not the process of collation or announcement of results. No, it's after the results have been counted, results have been declared, written, signed. You take a snapshot. You take a picture of the declared results. That is what you upload on IREV. I don't know where there's a confusion or there's a lacuna. Where people are confusing the role of the IREV in the entire process. Let me finish. IREV does not have a role to play in the electoral process. Okay. What it does, and people use the words correctly, that it is for transmitting the results. If you transmit the results on IREV, you're not going to start collecting results from IREV. You are still going to go to the RAC, the World Collation Center. From the World Collation Center, it goes to the Local Government Collation Center. And then ultimately, the State Collation Center, where the results are actually announced. Those results that were announced in Abuja were first declared at states. Okay.
Let's analyze your statement in the thoughts of Royal River Board being expressed. Now, you made mention of the fact that a lot could be missing after spending a huge amount of money in the beavers, and then we're having this verdict. What do you mean? Do you see that it's going to have a negative effect on it? And again, let's look at what he said. He may mention the fact that, for the very fact that results didn't come in real time, doesn't disturb the results or authenticity of the result.
His opposition is good, but I bet to disagree with him. He's trying to exclude the transmission process from the election process, electoral process.
And the voting process. Yeah.
And the voting process. That is not a good analogy. I will not subscribe to that.
Are you saying they are all part of the electoral process?
They are processes. That's the reason why you see those who want to call that. If they say we are challenging the process and the processes, you understand? They are all inclusive. You cannot be discussing one in isolation. To me, it's a reminiscent of a...
Because it takes you to have a voting activity
before you can also transmit. Yes. Why in the wisdom of INEC, INEC believe that Nigerians are no longer comfortable with the arcade system we are used to. That was the reason why, to assure Nigerians, they want people to come out for election. And that's the reason, after voting, this is what is going to happen. It will move from point A to point B using this process and methodology. That was why the Nigerians was excited. And you can see the way people were moved about the election. And that is the reason.
That even encourage
people have that assurance and hope. In those states in the last election, the governorship, those in US, in Europe, they were viewing it from the portal. They were giving out audit. As he's coming, they were seeing it there. That was the reason why people were not given. People were moved. So, you cast your vote immediately because we're in the country. From point A to point B, anything can happen.
Exactly.
So that's the reason to get that confidence. That's the reason why INEC, in their own wisdom, said we need to use this method to transmit. You cannot just come and tell me that it's not part of the process. The conclusion or the summary of opposition is a reminiscent of a woman, a daughter, and a woman who undergoes a cesarean section. You are coming to meet the husband and telling me, congratulations, the operation was successful, but we lost the baby. That is what you are saying. And that doesn't make sense to anybody. The whole process, the process of election, from registration to the collation to the announcement, they are all part of the process of election. Correct. Even the transmission, they are all part of the process of the election. What we need in this country for Nigeria, because we cannot continue to be lamenting. The book of lamentation was not written because of Nigeria. We cannot continue to be lamenting over this. I don't believe in way forward. What are the way forward? And I continue to tell people, you cannot be discussing yesterday's issue. Let's look at the way forward. We now saw the lacuna or the point of law. What do we need now? Our electoral process needs a critical review at this material time. Our legislator must look at the lacuna and the holes that were picked up by the judiciary and quickly work on our electoral process. Because if we don't get it right as at the level of election, we will not be able to get it at the level of policy formulation and policy and data analysis. And that is why Nigeria is not moving at a low speed, because one, those who you believe that you can find your way into government because you have the resources, not the will of the people. I have never seen in the world that persons who were not elected genuinely have the feeling of the people. People who are moved to work for any nation or any society is because they know that the people have the power to elect them. And those who have the power to elect them also have the power to call them back. That is why they are willing to work. Not where power is not reserved to some particular people who have the resources. Nigeria will not develop like that. We need a strong institution. I will continue to tell all Nigerians, what is missing in Nigeria is strong institutions. Once we get that institutions right, any other thing we follow in this country. If INEC was strong enough, INEC have no business. We don't even need to be going to court on this matter, because the records will be, everybody will know that the election was fair and fair. I voted in Norogba Primary School in Ohodua, and it's not transmitted. I open my computer on my phone, I can see my result is there. Immediately after the vote, I'm seeing it there. Why is the reason? Why will I be going to court? What do I go to in tribunal? Is that the issue? And that's the reason why we are telling ANEC, as we are talking now, ANEC is also assuring people in Bayelsa, in Kogi, that go and vote. We will use beavers. We will transfer like this. People are not, they are very skeptical, because of that they don't know what ANEC will also come about. We must build that confidence and courage in people. Let Nigeria have that confidence that once we go out to go and cast our vote, the result must count. People's will must prevail. If we get it right at that level, Nigeria will be moving in the right direction.
Thank you. Let's drive this to a logical point, and let's get your points clearly, Ibrahim. You made mention of the fact that gave the impression that there's no issue, even if the results are not transmitted in real time. And again, he also made mention of the fact that there could be ambiguities, from point A to B. And if there is a time lag, don't forget we are Nigerians. This is Nigeria, Africa. Anything can happen.
No, I think one thing is that there is this confliction of or misrepresentation of issues when you lump issues together. Oftentimes when people call beavers, they're referring to IREV and vice versa. There was no report of challenges with the beavers accreditation process. That's whether you use your face or your thumbprint. That was not the issue in court. So the idea that we spend so much money on the beavers, and the beavers worked. And the beavers is not the IREV. What I said is that the electoral process, global best practice, is about accreditation, voting, counting and collection of results, and then the collation. And then
the announcement.
That's how you voting and announcing the result, and then the collation. Because when you finish, and when you announce each of the units, you take it to the World Collation Center, what they call RAC in Nigeria, and then they are collated. The results from different units are added together to form the results from the world for each of the political parties. That is taken to the local government, and each of the world's results are also entered to get the local government results. So you can say this party got this number of votes in this election, that party got it, or this party won the election in this world, that one they won. And then for the world, it goes to the local government. Local government, all local governments, for example, you have in Edo 18 local government. The results from each of the collected results from the 18 local governments, what you have are the state results for Edo State. Okay, but don't you think transmitting results electronically in real time will boost the confidence that the electorate has? Yes, it will boost the confidence. Nobody is arguing about boosting it. That was what INEC that's even INEC's statement. Okay, but exactly the verdict just now, also could make INEC to sit on his hands. No, look at these points. The results that the political parties who are in court have from the units, is it different from what was uploaded online because it was delayed? That's the question we should be asking ourselves. If it was delayed, but what you have gotten from the units... But don't forget it raised suspicions. Even if it may not be different, but it raised suspicions. Let's ask the question correctly. If there is a disparity between the results declared, copies of which are with the political party agents, which have been submitted, of course, by now, that are submitted to the parties in the course of prosecuting their case in court. If the result that INEC now eventually uploaded for each of the polling units was different from what was declared, and the copies of which they have, hard copies, which again they will not get certified true copies from INEC for which to proceed. If there are differences, then there's a case. If it is mainly because you delayed the uploading of the results, and on the basis of that, the election was not free and fair, that cannot be a valid case to hold. I'm saying that if there is congruence, then we can say, okay, INEC, you shouldn't have delayed, even though INEC has given an excuse, which I didn't think was tenable, that it was because of a glitch or whatever. But the point remains.
You don't think it was tenable?
I don't know. No, that's the point. I'm not defending it. I'm saying that let us face it the way it is. I am a political scientist. I can speak from the point of view that the electoral process goes from this point to that point. And I've repeated it on air here. Which, if there's any issue, if you are contesting the fact that it doesn't start with accreditation and then voting, and then counting of the results and declaration of those results at the unit level, when you declare those results, the results are posted at the wall of the polling unit, and copies are signed copies by the agents are given to party agents. That result is what you take to the Ward Collation Center for entering and collation. That collected result at the ward level is what you take to the local government. That is the process of election. I'm not saying it differently. Well, I'm saying that unit result, what IREF does, is mainly that unit result, a copy of it, you take a photograph of it, and you upload it to the IREF. Just that, so that there will not case that the result that you have in your hand and the one that INEC uploaded are different. When they are the same, then there's no issue. It's only when they are not the same. That is where the issue will be. A lot of people who are not on ground in those units have interest. For example, maybe a political leader or an interested party, a candidate. He wants to know how he performed in a particular ward outside of his state or outside of his local government or outside of his voting points. He can simply go on IREF and check each of the polling units. He can do that. And compare it. If the party cannot compare what INEC uploaded and what I have my party agent submitted to us, are they in congruence? Okay. If they are not, but just say that because it was delayed, as a result of that, then the whole process is wrong.
Okay. Going forward.
It's another point I need to make.
You've articulated it.
Well, there's another point I need to make, if you don't mind. And that's the point that there's this fallacy of hasty generalization. We tend to make that point, Nigerians. Let's pick the fact. The majority of voters who voted for particular, I'm not holding brief for any political party here. The majority of the voters who voted for a different candidate, the party, based on the records that INEC declared, and based on the record that we have, even from the different political parties, the majority of voters voted for one candidate, and that candidate INEC declared as president. The results were not collected, were not done at Abuja. They were started from the polling units. So the idea that it was X number percentage that voted, that is the reason why a president cannot be seen as you don't expect that 100% votes. That's one. The last point to make is that let us paint a scenario that a particular candidate wins in 36 states in Nigeria. Because Nigeria as a country is divided into 37 parts, and then 774 local governments. Abuja's local government are counted among the 774 local governments in Abuja. There are 6 of them. Now, that 37 parts include 36 states in Abuja. Now, when you now have those 37 parts, you are saying that if 36 parts vote, just one part did not vote in favor. On the basis of that, we cancel the election.
Okay, thank you, Ibrahim. We're going to be taking a short break, after which we will continue on the discussion. Do stay.
TMI, every opinion counts.
Thank you for being there. We are on the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal verdict and the electoral system closing the gap. And I've been discussing with Roy Oribabo, the voice of the commoners, and of course, a political economist in the person of Ibrahim Momo. Well, let's look at this, Roy Oribabo. He has said a lot, but let's look at the way forward, looking at what we already have from the tribunal that has to do with INEC having the discretion to transmit either electronically or manually. We understand that that could be germane, because looking at some areas where there will be no network, that again could give room for that. But do you see any grounds or any challenge that may emanate from that ruling? And how do we, make it seamless in our electoral process going forward?
I think the issues on ground, that's the reason why when my friend Momo was talking I find it difficult to be in the same page with him. He was talking as a political scientist. You know, I am talking.
He wasn't being practical.
No,
Is that what you mean?
I'm talking as a political sociologist.
Oh.
You know, when you look at the intention of voters, what are the factors that will make people want to cast their votes? You understand? That is where I'm coming from. That's my background, yes. And it's as a result of the confidence that will be built on the voters by the INEC. And those people now have that assurance, confidence and hope that once we cast our vote, there is a process that will immediately move it. And that's the reason why people rush out to say, let me go and experience this process.
At least this is a different narrative.
Yes. Any other thing different, we must have to take responsibility for our irresponsibility. I'm not supposed to take that responsibility that we have earned. It will be very, very immaterial for any other person who want to justify that kind of conduct for my neck. As a political scientist, he is looking at people have just come, people voted, they do the manner and do the collection. He's not looking at the tension of people, what will motivate people, what will move people out of their home. Houses to say, let me go to a polling unit. I know some persons who traveled over 6 hours to go and cast their votes in this country. I embarked on a journey of more than 2 hours to my village in Okodua. And that is a community without a road. I could not drive to my house.
Which you've always drawn attention of the government.
I'm telling you
And the
now.
government is already looking into that.
You know, in my community, no, but there's not I have to park.
But you agree with me that the government is already giving attention?
It's on top of the situation. I want them to. I'm telling you the pain. What we pass through to go and cut our vote, that is the pain. The intention. And that is where the sociological thinking comes into it. Not to talk as a political scientist. You are only involved about the election process. Without considering what we make Philip want to embark on a voyage of 6 hours to go, let me go and cast my vote. It's the assurance. And that assurance cannot just jettison it. That's my point. Moving forward in Nigeria, as I said, unless you look at the judgment very critically and make a submission to the National Assembly. Look at this, there's a fallout from it now. They should look at it and critically dissect those positions. From there, our legislator will now say, well, these are the issues. But my fear in all these things, you know, those who held you down, if you are calling on them to rescue you, you are seeing where you find yourself. That is my fear about this situation, because those who are benefiting from the process presently, they will not want the process to work. Because if it works,
They want to frustrate it.
they want to frustrate it, because if they work, they will not have opportunity to be there. People like Momo will not be there. You understand me? People like
said a
will not
lot.
be there.
You've said a lot that Mama will have to respond.
You understand? No, Momo will want to be president, will want to be governor. There's nothing wrong about that.
I don't want to be president.
There's nothing wrong about that. Huh? I remember in our secondary school, we also applied for position. I can see the call. Therefore, you cannot all of a sudden say that you don't want to be governor or a senator. But on the more serious note, we must critically look at the way forward for this country. I am not very comfortable that after election, we continue to want to be going to tribunal. It is because the process is not as transparent. That is the reason why people rush to tribunal. You look at your news bar now, you can see the numbers of persons that have been served by tribunals. And imagine persons who were back on a voyage to go and cast their vote for this person. They will be disorganized now. That it is tribunal that is not determining the fate of those who came out that day to go and cast their vote. We must be bothered about those aspects. And for me to get it right, I will continue to say, INEC as an institution must be strong. We don't need one strong human being. I've never seen a society that works with one strong human being. As strong as Goliath, because he was a strong man with his institution, he collapsed. David was able, because David from his institution was able to defeat Goliath. Nigeria will not work in isolation. That you are looking at people, you say this is one superhuman being, the one who will make Nigeria to work. It will not work. We need institution. INEC as a body must be strong. If you say you want to, this is the process I want to use to conduct this election. At no level you must jettison it.
At
no level you must frustrate it. Because people are already on the road. They want to cancel. They want to see results.
Okay.
They want to, for the past almost 6 months now, we have been discussing over our electoral process. At the time we were waiting for the result. At the time we were waiting for the tribunal. After the tribunal, now we are waiting for Supreme Court. We are discussing this matter when we are supposed to be spending our time and resources.
Yes, it's a part of deepening the process. That's where we find ourselves, and we must. But
we can't remain like this.
We can't remain like this. We must look at ways. Let's look at the way forward. Like he made some expression which you may want to react to.
Well, I don't intend to react because
as regards INEC getting it right. In the coming days.
Roy is my guy, so he's at liberty to throw those tantrums. I think the point to make is, regarding the way forward, there are 3 elements I would like us to look at.
And also strengthening the electoral umpire in order to encourage the electorate.
The first thing is the electoral management body, the Independent National Electoral Commission. I think it needs to be unbundled.
Oh.
That's the first thing I think I would recommend as a way forward. I think in fact I've even made that point repeatedly. In global best practice, for example, in the US, a federal state like Nigeria, it is not a central body that conducts elections at the level of the units. Every state has their independent electoral commission.
Like we have ETSEC? Are you making mention of that?
In Nigeria, we have, see, in Nigeria, we have 7 levels of elections.
Okay.
We have the presidential election, the Senate elections, the House of Rep election, that's the 3rd one. We have the gubernatorial, and then the House of Rep. And the House of Assembly. Those are 5 levels of elections that INEC conducts. The ETSEC conducts the 6th and 7th, which is the local government, chairmanship, and councillorship at the world levels. So there are 7 levels of elections. Currently, INEC conducts 5. The State Independent Electoral Commission conducts 2. Okay. The first thing is that INEC, that's not just the work that INEC does. INEC is the one that does publicity, creates a political socialization. INEC is the one that registers voters. INEC is the one that monitors the activities that registers and the registers, as well as monitor the activities, including the primaries of political parties. INEC is the one that conducts election. Just one thing. INEC is the one that, again, engages ad hoc staff, engages transport unions, accredited observer. INEC does so much. Even the media, INEC
is being overburdened.
That's one body to do all that much and much more. It's something that even INEC himself has a fear that it's too much of a job to do.
Could you say that could be attributed to the failures we had?
No, I think, you know, when Roy speaks to the issue of institutions, you know, it shows that we need to, one of the fears Nigerians exercise is what I think it was made in passing, the issue of ETSEC. We saw I don't know what to call it, the elections that took place on the 2nd of September, just about a week ago. Okay. We saw the elections that held there. And people are saying that if it is how we're going to hold the federal elections, then the one we are complaining now will be a child's play. You know, so the reality is that we need to strengthen those subnational institutions. We talk about state police. We need to strengthen so that they can indeed function independent of external influence. That's the first thing. The electoral umpire has to be unbundled. Secondly, is that the election petition tribunal and then the Supreme Court, the judiciary. I'd like to encourage them to remain steadfast because there has been so much pressure on the judiciary. In fact, there was this very funny one, all eyes on the judiciary. Though when those eyes, when they got to the judiciary, they were all sleeping. There was this social media campaign, even on billboards. When they got to where they see, look at the judges yourself. They all slept on duty. Okay. Very funny. But judiciary, I think they have to remain steadfast because they are the last hope of the candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, twice went to court and won as governor. Against Chris Ngige. He fought Ngige for 3 years, until 3 years and 2 months, until he became the governor. And then he became governor. 9 months or so down the line, Andy Uba, not even before the impeachment, Andy Uba was supposedly elected governor 9 months after Obi became governor. Obi went to court to say that if I was elected for a 4-year term, would it be appropriate to say that after 9 months or thereabouts, the court again stood in his favor? And Andy Uba was removed, the shortest serving governor in Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Please, before you thank you very much. The third point is that, I'll say that very quickly now, is that, you see, We can blame INEC, political parties, blame everybody. But the reality is that the key stakeholder in an electoral process is the electorate.
All right. Big thanks to you, Ibrahim Momo. Big thanks also to you, Royal River. But let's quickly enjoy the moment we are in, just as we have the celebrations going on, where His Excellency, the Esama of Benin, Sir Chief Dr. Gabriel Sawa Gbenedion, clocks 89. What are your thoughts on this quickly, Royal River?
Permit me to quickly congratulate the greatest Esama of the universe. You know, he's celebrating 89. You know, shows for me that over the year have demonstrated a character that all of us are proud of. He's a father to all. He's a man who has shown that poverty can really be conquered. He fought poverty and he conquered and conquered poverty. And we are able to also reach out to people. Imagine we are talking because of Esama. He set up this platform. I listened to somebody yesterday who said if it's not because of Esama, he was previously being in China selling granite. He went to Igbelejo University. Awesome. You know, he went to Igbelejo Education Center. In all aspects, a man told me that the first time he bought an FH was because of Igbelejo. In all ramifications, he's a great father to all. I pray God continue to sustain him. May God continue to grant him more life and quality heads. You know, I'm very proud of him. My only regret today is that I've not the opportunity or privilege to sit with him one-on-one. And I believe this opportunity.
Thank you for that articulation. In 30 seconds, your thoughts.
Well, 30 seconds will not be enough, you know, with all due respect, to, you know, eulogize the enigma that the Esama, not just of Benin, even though it's the Esama of Benin, but of the universe is. The Esama of Benin, Sir Chief Dr. Gabriel Osawa Gbenedion. I'd like to wish you a happy birthday, sir, and to say to you that he's not just the Esama, he's the honorary Romanian ambassador for Edward. So it's a diplomat. For someone like me with a background in political science, you know, it's my father in the field. It's the Romanian ambassador. Right. My big thanks to you. Esama is a trailblazer. Esama is a success story. Esama is a role model for every human being living on earth. It is that he has this I can't do and it is possible spirit. Esama, whether it's in business, whether it is in politics, he's successful. He has children who have been local government chairmen, who have been governors. Esama, when it comes to philanthropy, is legion.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Well,